disclaimer that as I'm recording, if you don't like being recorded, if you don't want to be recorded, please jump off the call. Hopefully everyone will still stick around. Yes, great. A recording, yes. So I know there's a few people that do want to attend or see the discussions and hear a few tips, and that's the reason for recording there too. And Cal, have you managed to get your mic working? Maybe. But for those who do want to pitch in and ask questions as well, the etiquette or the way that we usually do this within a link meeting is we mute ourselves while we're not talking or presenting, and we come off mute when we want to ask a question. You can tap away in the background and drop your questions in the messaging window. However, it's going to be a bit tricky for me, being the only one running the meeting, to answer those questions. So if you want to ask a question there, feel free to drop them in there, and maybe someone else on the call will be able to answer it. And I'll do my best to occasionally jump back to that meeting and see who and what is asking questions. Okay, so let's just get back to the agenda. Yeah, and rightly so, I'm using OneNote to present this. So what we're looking at today to start with is the OneNote class notebook creator. And the purpose of the call, really, it's quite informal. It's just a way of getting some people together who wanted to know a bit more about it, or for those who are using it within their school or planning to use it, to share a few of their experiences. So one of the things we are going to do to start with is have a look at the class notebook creator, looking at the tool itself and how to get it installed in our environment. So I've got a test environment that I can share, and we'll step through some of the things there. We'll look at where that notebook sits. We can install it within a class site, which is a team site within SharePoint Online, and we'll also look at where we can run the class notebook creator within our OneDrive for business. But actually, you see, I've crossed it out, hoping that at some point maybe they might call it for education or just zero that kind of idea. So the other things we'll look at too, we'll look at where these notebooks are being stored, because there's many different ways that schools are doing this. They're either creating it within their OneDrive for Business, and I've come across a number of schools which have had to find their own way with SharePoint Online, so that's where they've started. Rather than creating team sites, they've just used their OneDrive for Business and started to share and collaborate with their students from that perspective. But there are other ways to structure where you put your notebooks and how you're creating your class site, so we will have a brief look at that. Also wanted to get some ideas and see what everyone's doing with their welcome section. So within the notebook, we'll have a look at that shortly, the structure of it, but there is a welcome page or a welcome section, and whether people are using that in a creative way to make their notebook a little more useful and easier to navigate. Different ways of using the collaborative section, so I'm really interested to hear too, and I'm sure everyone else is on the call, how we're using that section to work with our students within class, and make use of the collaborative features of OneNote, and some of the challenges with that too. Some of them are, like getting people to work on the same page and seeing how that works out. And finally, I guess there's one idea that I've put out there and wanted to see how others are doing it, the way that we're sharing our OneNote lesson resources, how we're reusing them, how we're sharing them with other classes and other teachers within our teams, and hopefully we can share some feedback there too. So I'll just have a quick look at some of the comments there. Welcome everyone who has joined. Let me just see if I can get the recording taskbar out of the way. Okay, so just to start with, we'll just have a look at the OneNote class notebook creator. I see from the survey that a couple of people indicated that they hadn't come across it before. Maybe they'd heard of it, but want to learn a bit more about this. So forgive me for those who have are familiar with the class notebook creator. The app itself was firstly released into the SharePoint App Store, called the OneNote Setup Tool for Teachers, I believe is what it was called. it does have its roots in or its foundations in some ideas from a couple of schools that are on the call actually. Carl Armstrong and I think Kevin also had a few similar founding ideas too. So what Microsoft are doing with this app is not new, but they are doing it within the Office 365 environment and making it more accessible and easier for schools to repeat the experience. So we'll just have a quick look at the Class Notebook Creator. First of all, let's have a look at where we're doing this. I've got a demo site of a Year 10 science class, and I'll just show you where the app sits. So just to give an idea, just at the very basic level, within SharePoint Online you can install apps within your classroom. So within SharePoint Online we have team sites that we can create classes. And I'm just going into my site contents to show you the background of what's happening within a class site. That we have various different apps that we can use. Apps are really just a way of using lists and libraries, information within SharePoint. We're familiar with document libraries, so I've got my documents here, and we've also got a homework and assignment list that I've created. But we can get these default document lists and libraries. They're all part of SharePoint Online. They're all available out of the box and we can customize them. What we're interested in today is bringing in an application from the SharePoint store, and this is where we've got the OneNote Class Notebook Creator. So that's where it's sitting. Now to start with, what I'd like to do is show you the best practice way of installing this app so that we can manage it more easily and effectively within our schools. SharePoint Online uses a piece of SharePoint functionality called the App Store. So not everyone will see this this area of SharePoint. This is an area where the administrators of Office 365 can see. It's basically where the site collections of all our sites within our school intranet are held and controlled. And we'll just have a look at how we can get to that. I'm using the brand new app launcher, and I can get into the admin settings here and re-log in. Yeah, I did think that I'd had all these screens set up nicely, but never mind. And so we're in the admin screen, and down the bottom we've got our SharePoint options. So this is where your Office 365 admins for your school can get into and set up the app. Now we could, as you saw from the class site, go straight into the App Store. We can add an app and then go to the App Store and find it that way. But the best practice is to do this through the SharePoint administration console. So we're going into the app catalog. I won't spend too much time here because I know there aren't that many technical people on the call. And we create something called an app catalog. An app catalog is really just another site sitting separately, but what its job is to make sure that all the other sites within your school intranet can see apps that you might be sharing and publishing throughout the whole school. So what I'll do is go into the app catalog and show you where I have downloaded and installed the OneNote Class Notebook Creator. So we've got the app catalog. It's pretty bland looking. It's functional, but not the most exciting thing to look at. And just like with our team sites, when we want to install an app within our app catalog, the best practice way to do it for at least the OneNote Class Notebook Creator is to go into our site contents, and I have it sitting here already. Just to go through the process of where we find the app, you can do this from any class site, but as I said, the app catalog is the best place to do it. We'll add an app, and we'll go to the SharePoint store. So these are apps that at the moment on the screen are all apps that I've already downloaded, or they're part of the SharePoint standard apps that are available in Office 365. to add additional apps, I'll go to the SharePoint store, and I need to have a Microsoft account handy. So that I'm not entirely sure the purpose for this, and that a lot of schools and people would like to see being able to install apps just using your Office 365 accounts. But at this point in time, we still need a Microsoft account to install apps, because these apps are also available to install within Office itself, and for individuals to install. So we visited the store, and as a featured app, the OneNote EDU team, of course, have made it a featured app, so it's nice and easy to find, and it's at the top of the list there. But if you do find that it changes where it's going to be a featured app or not, we can use the search box there and type OneNote class, search it, and then you'll find it there too. For that, Mike, and we've got Muhammad. There we go. And that, people, is how you fix mics within your link meetings. So we've found our app, and it is simply a case of launching it, and I've already got the app, so it's advising me that's the case. If I hadn't installed the app, then I can add it. You'll see from some of the installation videos that you can go through a process of adding it and trusting it, etc. So we'll get back to our app catalog, and one final thing that I'll show you before we move on from there is how to make this app available within your school from this app catalog. So we can deploy or publish the app and make it available so it's just sitting there and ready for teachers to use. So we've got the app, and we can hover over and use the ellipsis menu, and we'll get some deployment options underneath the second ellipsis menu here. And this will take us through to hopefully one of the last technical things that we'll be looking at today. Forgive me, our cat's trying to get through the cat door at the same time. It's all go here at 5 in the morning. And we've got some options here to publish the app and how we'd like to do that. If you want to control it and say just publish it to a certain site collection, you can look up the name and add it. But one of the best ways to do it within your school, because it's going to be a very useful app for everyone, is to select all paths from the left hand side. Just click add and OK, and then you'll be taken through to well, we should be able to do this option here. This is effectively republishing it, but there's no harm in doing that. We'll trust the app, and it has been published. So that makes it available throughout our school within all the different sites within our school. And that's why if I create a new site, or if I have some existing sites, I will see this OneNote Class Notebook Creator app sitting there nicely for teachers to use. So we are trying to make this simple for teachers to run and make available within their class sites and within OneDrive for Business. We don't want people to have to go and install and try and find things within the SharePoint store. It's far better to install it in that one place. And those who have been using it within their school will appreciate too that installing the app within the app catalog means that we've only got one place that we need to go and update the app. So the recent update that allows multiple teachers to be added to the notebook. I'll just pause for the applause, because that was a great update and a great feature that was added. That because of the place where I installed the app, I can now deploy it from one place rather than rushing around and I'm trying to update it in every site that it's in. Exactly, applause. So we'll just continue from here. So we've got the app in place. It's sitting within our class site, and what do we do with it? So again, apologies for those who have seen this before. I know Microsoft expert educators on the call would have seen this, but the app is something that goes alongside the many different versions of of OneNote that you can have. So you've got OneNote on your desktop, you've got OneNote on various tablets, you can use OneNote on mobiles as well. These are all ways of being able to access our notebooks. And what we're doing is we're going to be creating a notebook within our class site, or at least looking at one that we've created. So we'll launch the app, and what it will do is take us through to a screen where we can look at 4 phases, I guess, of creating a notebook. Let me just find our microphone to mute the yeah. Morning, Hassan, or hello. Feel free to come off mute when you've got some questions. Okay, so we've got a small introduction there to the OneNote class notebook creator, and we'll have these 4 common tiles. So most of us will start from the create a class notebook. We've got additional things that we can do after we've created the notebook. We can add more students, or we can add another teacher to be able to access the various areas of the notebook and help to facilitate or work with the activities within the class. And we've also got an additional tile here at the end which will look at where our notebooks are stored and give us all the links to where those notebooks are. I'll explain a little more about that feature shortly. But first of all, we'll have a look at the create a class notebook. So there's a few basic guided steps. So I'm happy to say that this is not too difficult, and we have seen teachers that have made their way through these choices without too much trouble. But we'll just start up a class notebook to start with. We'll call it water cooler, just in honor of our Yammer network, and click old next. So at this point it's advising us that it's going to be creating a few sections for the notebook. So I will just explain here for those who haven't seen the notebook creator yet. The notebook itself will create 3 sections, or 3 types of sections. First of all, the collaboration space where teachers and students can work together on the same page. So you might have seen in meetings or in other places too that you can co-author within a notebook. This means that more than one person can type on the same page and add content to it. And so the idea within the school is that we use that space to facilitate some of our lessons and run group activities. The content library is where a teacher might publish things like worksheets or homework assignments, other lesson resources that you don't want the students to be able to alter, but you do want them to have a copy of, and perhaps even make a copy so that they can begin to work with it within their own area of the notebook. Which brings us to the last area of the notebook, which is a section for each student. So we'll be seeing in a couple of steps along here that we'll be adding students to the notebook, and they'll get their own section within the notebook that they can work with. The student and the teacher can see that section, but other students cannot see each other's notebooks. So we'll step through to that next step. At this point here, we can add another teacher. So we'll just add Mr. Webster. And you'll see that SharePoint goes away and makes a suggestion based on what we've typed. So we'll just select Mr. Webster and go from there. You'll get the similar experience here too when you're adding students rather. I've based all my students, or rather characters, on characters within Pirates of the Caribbean. So I've got Jack Sparrow and Elizabeth Swann, etc. So I can select a student there, but if you do have quite a list of students that you want to add sections within your notebook, you can output a list from the OneNote class notebook creator, output a list from your student management system and make sure that they have a semicolon between the names. This way you can paste in quite a few names, and rather than having to look them up one by one. So we'll just add Jack, Elizabeth Swann, yep, and Barbosa, Captain Barbosa. So our next section, we've got 4 suggested sections within notebooks that we'll be creating for students. This will be a little like a template for each of the student sections. We're saying here that we want to create a section for handouts, somewhere that they can create their class notes, homework and quizzes. What I have seen is some schools using this to match the units of study that they might be covering within class. I'm just thinking of topics perhaps within primary schools or within a high school subject such as biology. You might be covering different modules within the year. So you can make additional sections, human biology, and make that match perhaps the content section of a class notebook, so that you've got an area where you're publishing content to your students. And this area, the students can make a copy of that content or the worksheets and keep it all together in the same structure. So as we work through this, we get a preview now of what the notebook looks like. We've got the view that the teacher will see, and we can see as a teacher the different students that are going to be given sections within a notebook. In the student's view, Captain Barbosa will only see his notebook and the content and collaborative sections within the notebook, and we'll create that. So we see now a preview of some of the things that are going on with the class notebook creator. For a little bit more technical detail, a OneNote file, if you do not know, is really just a collection of folders and .one files. So while we see a nice pretty OneNote icon on the outside, within the notebook itself are folders and files, in effect, I guess like having a Word document within a Word document. And what the class notebook creator is doing is creating a folder and the files and the structure within SharePoint Online, and then setting all the permissions in a unique way so that only students and teachers can access it in certain ways. And that's what's happened for us now. So we have the final page where we can share the link and send this on to our students. I can also open the notebook from here, and that will open up within OneNote on my desktop. And one new feature of the class notebook creator is it's supposed to email those who have been invited into the notebook. So we will flick over to the other session that I've logged in as Mr. Webster, one of the teachers, and see if that's the case. I understand sometimes there's a slight delay with the email, so we'll be able to see that. But yeah, one way to share, of course, is we can copy that link and paste it into an email, or what I like to do is grab that link, and I like to be able to add that to my class. So I'll do a couple of things here and leave them running in the background. What I'm going to do is, first of all, we'll copy this link because I'm going to use it somewhere else shortly, and we'll also launch the notebook within OneNote on our desktop. Now, if we're using another device such as an iPad or an Android or a Windows tablet, etc., that link where we can launch the notebook will launch on another device as well. So rather than watching that notebook come down and synchronize, the other thing I'm going to do is we copy that link. Oops. We did copy that link, and I'm going to go back to our class site from here. So first of all, we've got to go back home. Now, we used to be able to get straight back to the class site from here. There used to be a small button up in the top left-hand corner where we could click that and go straight back to our SharePoint site. Now we've got to go through a couple of steps at this stage. So this will take us back to the home page of the class notebook creator, and we'll be able to get back to our class site. Let's see, might be able to just skip that rather than waiting. The bandwidth isn't that great down here in New Zealand, and I am of course on a home connection, so I do have a bit of patience. And let's see if I can open this up in a new tab. No, we won't do that. Let me do something here. We'll go back to our class site from here. So I've got the link within our class, and I can see the watercolor notebook that I've created and the other notebook that I'm going to demonstrate to you. So the OneNote class notebook creator app does a couple of other things. What it does do is it adds a link to our quick launch menu within our class sites so that we can get to our class notebooks. So if a student arrives at the home page, then they're not sort of lost about how do I get to our class notebooks. And this is what I did within the previous version. I took that link that I copied from the class notebook creator, and I edited my page, and I linked it to an image here, or perhaps some text on the page, so that I could make the notebook easy to find. Now we've got a section of the quick launch called class notebooks, and as we saw on the previous page, we've got an area here where each teacher that runs this tool within this class will create a folder, and that's where all their courses or classes are stored. And in most cases, there'll be a one-to-one relationship of class to teacher. But I guess that's one point that I'd like to ask. Shortly I'll open that up, about how some schools are doing this, where they're storing their notebooks. So we'll go in here and see the two notebooks that are created. And what I've done is usually I've grabbed the link and I've created an item within the quick launch to make it easier again to find that notebook within my class. So this one was called water cooler. Just trying to take the easiest route so that we can ensure that everyone can find what they need. I'll just drag that link into position, and now we've got two notebooks, and I've indented that link, you see, so that we can see that it's a collection of notebooks within our class. Before I go on from there, we'll go back to our class notebook creator app. We can add additional students from here, so the similar experience that we had while we're creating the notebook, we can go in and add additional students and teachers. And now that we've got two notebooks, we can go to get links and we can see the two notebooks sitting there too. So we'll go back from here. So back to our class site. The notebooks are stored within a new library as well, which if we looked in the background, we'll see where those notebooks are stored. Site and contents, and the library is called Class Notebooks. At least I've renamed it Class Notebooks. It is a slightly longer name, but I've done something to make it a bit more attractive within my class. So that's how the app is stored, and let's have a look at let's have a quick look at some of the questions that might be asked at the moment. Okay, that's good. Cal and a couple of other people are discussing some things as we go. Thanks for answering the questions there, Cal. Keep it up, and others that are pitching in. So we've got the app, we've got the notebook now that we've created. Let's have a look at what that notebook looks like. We've got our watercolor notebook, and this is a reasonably empty notebook at this stage. We've got a lot of hints about how to use it, and you can watch a few videos and have a look at an example notebook. One other good resource to use is the OneNoteforTeachers.com site. A lot of different interactive training guides there that you can click, and it will guide you through and tell you what you need to know and help you with the process. So that's OneNoteforTeachers.com. But this is our empty notebook, and I'm using full screen view, so let's just get out of that and show you some of the sections. We've got our collaborative section, collaborative space. our content library and the 3 students that we've added. And we have a welcome page that we can make good use of. So look, just to open it up to those who have been using the OneNote class notebook creator, what I'd like to do is just get back to the agenda that I had there. And one of the questions I was going to ask is about where you're storing your notebooks. So as you've seen, as I've run that app, it creates a library, and we can store our notebooks in the class site itself. But one other way to do this is if we just take this up here. One of the common structures that I've been using is that you might have a area of the school like your home site, which is when we go to our SharePoint.com site, that's where we land to start with. One of the common structures that I've been seeing is that we have, within a high school at least, the different learning areas within our curriculums of our different countries might sit in here. We might have English and science and maths, etc. And that's a level of subsites. And then a site below, let's say science, because we're using that example in our sites, we might break it down into years. So that might be years 9, 10, etc. And then below that, if you're going to go to that level, would be where you have your class site and the teacher that's running that particular class, because there might be 5 or 6 teachers of year 9 science. So my question is, and I'll ask if you could come off mute maybe to discuss at this point just briefly, is where are you storing your notebooks? Some schools, are you all creating a class site for each teacher, or in some cases, because some schools want to make it really simple for teachers to facilitate their classes, they're not using class sites. What they're doing is that all year 9 classes, the notebooks are being stored in year 9 as a site, and you'll have a notebook for each class, and they're all being stored at this level. So just to open that question up, what sort of responses are we getting there? And we could feel free to come
Darryl, can I cut in there?
Certainly.
Yeah, we use the class notebook creator, and what we do is we get that to launch from the teacher's OneDrive site within Office 365, because with the way that our kind of classes worked, we felt it was, and the teachers felt it was better to be in total control of the class notebook that they were creating. But what we do is we actually launch that from within Yammer as the catalyst for people to access those class notebooks. So our teachers will create the class notebook, will post the link into a class Yammer group, and that's the launch place for students accessing that book at the moment.
Right. Publish the link in Yammer. Okay, so I mean that brings in another area of the discussion. I guess we won't go too much into that, but so your school's successfully using Yammer, and you've got a group for each class.
Yes, yeah, and it kind of allows for, excuse me, it kind of allows for the conversation to continue kind of after the lesson, in fact. So we tend to see a lot of kind of conversation about what's gone on in the lesson, or students referring to students regarding homework and discussing about what's in the class notebook for that lesson, and that continues on Yammer kind of out of school hours quite happily.
All right, so are you not making much use at all of the SharePoint online structure to create class sites? You're just
yeah, not as much as we thought we would, because primarily Yammer kind of stole the thunder from that, in the basis that teachers were more happy about pinning resources into Yammer groups and making them accessible from there. But it's just the way it's began. I think the thing you kind of get from the whole of this as an educator is it can evolve in different ways for different schools on the way different schools kind of do business, if you see what I mean. So it doesn't necessarily go, there's a hard and fast rule to do this and that. But I mean, we do have some great SharePoint sites, but it tends to be the way our students responded to it, and the way the teachers did it, of actually using Yammer as the catalyst for people to go, let's go back into my group and I can access this from within my mobile device or my tablet, and then click on the link and I'm back into OneNote on my Android app or my iOS phone or something like that. And it kind of began to empower it more being used on mobile devices around the classroom.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a really interesting use of it, and so you've gone the direction, of course, of having the notebook within OneDrive. I did see an interesting question there too from Cal about what the impact of the Delve service is, and just for those who don't know, Delve is a clever way that Office 365 managed to surface information, documents, conversations, all sorts of more things coming our way, but a way to rather than us having to know what to search for, it's presenting things that it thinks we'd be interested in based on our activity within Office 365. So I think it is surfacing class notebooks. I don't know if it goes too deep into the notebook itself and makes decisions based on pages and what's being put into it. Yep, it finds stuff in your OneDrive. Yep. Yeah. So exactly. Yeah. So Delve will obey your security. It will, if you've shared it with a certain group of people, that only those people will see that. But like you've said there, Cal, if there's something that you have shared with everyone but you haven't really realized that you have, Delve will certainly show you that that's the case. Because people will be able to access that too. And yes, Alberta, you can share OneNote. You can share a class notebook. However, it's best to choose or to use the class notebook creator app to do the sharing, because what it does is sets permissions within the notebook that are unique. So unlike with a Word document where we can click it and say share and invite people into it, there are sections within the class notebook which are unique in their permissions. So I will try and answer some more questions at the end, but we'll just keep on moving. And just to be able to talk to Kevin's point there, let's have a look quickly at being able to create a notebook within the OneDrive. So I've got another teacher logged in here, Mr. Webster, and I will just open up his OneDrive. And there won't be a lot there to see because it's a demo account, but we'll just run the class notebook creator from within that experience too. And from within here, when you're within the OneDrive experience, unlike with the SharePoint sites where you have a site contents link down on the left hand side, we can access the site contents link up here in the site settings, and we can get to the creator app from here. So there'll be a similar experience of running the app. I won't run through that again, but we can create a notebook here, and just like we did within our class sites, when we're inviting teachers or students into the notebook, it'll take us through that same experience, and should send an email now for a link to the notebook. And while we're in here, let's have a look and see if that has been the case. Let's have a look at the Outlook for this demo account. And Daryl has shared the water cooler notebook with you. So it is working as advertised. I understand that some people do see delays with the email. I'm not sure how quickly that came through, 5:27, so could have been around the same time as when we were creating the notebook and sharing it out. So it seems to have done it at around in a timely manner. But I can click on that link, and if you might see just down the bottom left-hand corner, the link to the notebook is as advertised. That will open up within the OneNote online experience. And that's something else to note too, that with our students, the best experience, of course, is using OneNote on your desktop or OneNote on various devices. However, if you're using a shared computer lab or something like that, or maybe the student might have forgotten their device if you're a BYOD school, you can use OneNote online and get some of the basic functions of being able to edit the areas of the notebook. So as the teacher here, Mr. Webster, now I can go in and we'll go into our content library, and I can add content or additional bits and pieces to this. So I might create a content, and let's call this module of workforces in motion. I've got a feeling that we're going to run out of time and maybe do a repeat meeting at some point to go into some more detail. But yeah, you get the gist here. I don't want to spend too much time on some of these areas or basics. I do want to open it up to some more discussion, because I felt that's going to be of more value to us, especially for those who are using the class notebook creator already. So we can get that experience of being able to work within a notebook within the browser. So if we get back to areas and agendas and questions, so as you can see, the notebook can be stored within OneDrive for Business, and one advantage that Kevin will certainly be experiencing with their school doing that, that OneDrive is now going to be unlimited storage. So that's something to consider too, that if you were to set up class sites and go through that structure, there is a cost to that storage at this stage, that you do have a pool of storage, and there'd be quite a bit of storage for most schools, but if you're creating a class site, then you're still at this stage limited to the space, and you'll have to purchase more if you need to. However, if you're using OneDrive for Business, and I'll just abbreviate that as ODFB, using your class notebooks there, you will have unlimited space, and at this stage, at the moment, it's 1 terabyte, but that's going to be opened up in the future. So that's one good reason for putting your class notebooks there. So if we get back to that question itself, what are some of the others who use the class notebook creator? We're about to use storing your notebooks. Who else is using the class notebook creator? Cal, have you got your headset working? Are you able to come off and give some comments about where your notebooks have been stored? Maybe his headset's not working at the moment. Anyone else using the class notebook creator and storing their notebooks in different areas? Yeah, we're not hearing you. And I won't expect you to write essays within the instant messaging pane. Yep, you're storing them in class sites, but you're going to move to the Yammer model as well, and that's interesting. So it does seem that trying to lower the barriers, trying to reduce the friction, and trying to make it really easy for teachers and students to access, that sounds like it's a good way to use it. So the Yammer model, as Kevin sort of detailed to us, is rather than having a class site for every teacher and running your classes out of that, a teacher will create their class notebook within OneDrive for Business, and they'll invite their students into it. Alongside the notebook, they'll have a a group within the Yammer network for their school, and that group will be for the class. And interactions and discussions within the class will be held within that Yammer group. Within a Yammer group, you can pin resources to the side, so students that have been invited into that group can see a link to the OneNote class notebook, and work from there. And then you've got two very simple areas to be able to facilitate your class interactions. You can run all your class activities within the notebook, and you can have all your discussions within Yammer, and vice versa. Oh, you're welcome, Mohammed. Yeah, I'm sorry we're not quite getting through the content that I'd hoped, but have been having some good discussions there. So let's just ask a couple more questions too to open it up. There is a welcome section, as you saw, when we create the notebooks, and it does have some helpful information about how to use the notebook to start with. But what ways are you using the welcome page? What I do see an advantage of with OneNote is that you don't have to know a lot about HTML programming, etc. You can just create your notebook and basically insert your pictures on there, as I have on screen. You can have links off to the other various areas of the notebook, and reference other resources too that you might want to be able to use within the notebook. So I'll just open that up there too, see if there's any comments or people that might be brave enough to come off and talk about it. How are you using your welcome page? Again, Kevin, if you feel inclined, feel free to jump off and tell us a bit about how your school's using welcome pages, and I see a few other discussions alongside it. So yeah, just the example that I've given, rather than having our welcome page with the instructions about how to use OneNote, feel free to dress it up and make it more friendly for students. So it can be like your home page for your class, and again, you don't have to know how to configure SharePoint or program any HTML and do anything fancy. You can just create your own areas and sections, and drag your pictures around wherever you need them to be. You could, if you wanted to, record a video and have that as a welcoming page as well. I've done other things as well alongside this, using Office Mix, maybe having a link to a welcome Office Mix PowerPoint, and making that more useful and friendly.
Daryl, this is Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Can I jump in for a sec?
Sure.
I'm just starting. Like I've said, we're just kind of rolling out all of the whole Office 365 stuff this year. So I started using the classroom notebooks, and I'm the library media specialist, so I use it for our research projects, and I have everybody from kindergarten through 6th grade. And so I use the welcome page as a place where I give directions, sometimes video, sometimes written directions for the project, and I put like the rubrics and things like that for the project on the welcome page for their class notebook. So that's how I've been using it so far.
Right. Yeah, it is essentially like a home page or a directory, isn't it? You can do with it whatever you want, but that welcome page, it's a really useful thing to be able to make it that place to say, here's your landing spot, and now we're going to put links off to other pages and other resources. So yeah, that's definitely a good use. I might see if we've got any other comments. Oh, thanks, Alberti. Yeah, there's a lot more to learn, but yeah, feel free to join the water cooler Yammer network. Let's just have a quick plug for that. Our water cooler network is somewhere here. Here it is. Yammer.com/OneNote water cooler, and someone will let you in there if you manage to get in. Your invite will be posted to you not long after. So we've got a couple of other questions here we can work through. I'm sorry that we didn't get through as much as we wanted to today. We've got a few ideas about the welcome section, the collaborative section. Just to quickly show you a couple of ways that that's being used within a Year 10 science site that I've mocked up. I've got my Forces in Motion module of work, and so I've run a lesson here, and I've used OneNote as a whiteboard. So where I might normally be typing on, rather writing on a whiteboard, I've typed up the goals, maybe the equipment that I might be using for an experiment, and being that I'm lucky enough to have a tablet that has a digitizer, I can write on it as well. And the beauty of this is that students will get a copy of these notes in this notebook as they're connected to it. And you'll also be able to keep a good record of what you've typed, rather than maybe taking a picture with your smartphone of the whiteboard. So we've got an area there that we can create our lessons and use that as a whiteboard, but I've also created an area too where we might run group exercises. So being that this is a science class, I've got an exercise here that I want groups to be able to go through and measure various things, and that measurement's very important within science. And the groups have created themselves a page of their own, and they'll go through and fill out the table and go through the experiment and record their results. So how long is an orange? Circumference 20.
Can I interrupt you for a second, Gerald?
Sure.
One of the this is Maya Lang, by the way. One of the things that has struck me over the past few months is that many teachers use handwriting in OneNote pages, and they encourage their students to join in and also just jot on pages. To me, with my a bit how do you say conservative education, it comes across as being very sloppy. It's not typed, so it automatically gives the impression of something that's not finished off. How can other people who've worked with OneNote and handwriting explain what the handwriting does to their teaching or to the learning process? Does it add something to them? Can you enlighten me a little bit?
I've got a couple of comments I can add, but I'll just leave it open to see if there's anyone else that wants to add a few comments.
Can I add in there?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, we've actually, with the class notebook, is from the collaboration space perspective, is what we've done is teachers tend to now use that as their interactive board software. So rather than using things like Active Inspire, which is some of our interactive board software, they tend to major on creating notes and using the collaboration space as their whiteboard piece of software. And what the teachers will do is they will use the free-form handwriting tool, but they'll also, where they need to, is actually convert that to text within OneNote through the draw menu, to create that handwritten text into some points which are then obviously searchable from a student perspective when they look at it later on.
Yeah, that's certainly a good feature to mention about the handwriting side of it. I take the point there about how it may seem messy and unfinished, but you can, let's have a look here, convert this to text. Whoops, getting myself lost here. So converting it to text, OneNote will also be able to recognize and can index and search that as well. But one thing that I heard from a great group of teachers in a good meeting that I attended a couple of weeks ago was that that being able to ink and write something versus typing, there's a lot of study around how information is absorbed and processed, and when we are writing rather than typing, we tend to process what we're trying to record more than if we were typing. I can touch type, so if I needed to, I could probably get fast enough to just take notes verbatim and grab it or type everything that a lecturer or a teacher might be saying. But I'm going at that pace, but I'm not necessarily understanding what I'm typing. I'm just trying to grab everything and put it down. Whereas someone who's handwriting, of course, they can't write as fast as someone talking, so they have to process and think, what is that point that this teacher is saying, and what do I need to put down as one of the important points? And that act of processing the information will help them to learn and absorb that more. What I've found too is being someone that's typed for a number of years now, it's almost like I've forgotten how to write. And in my own personal experience, being able to write something helps me to slow down and think about what I'm trying to say, rather than type mistake, backspace, type mistake, backspace. That sort of disjointed, disrupted way of getting my information on a page. And Cal's got some great things to add there too. Look, I know that we didn't get through everything that we wanted to. Is everyone happy to stick around for a bit longer and see if we can answer and discuss a couple more things? If you are, we can stay on the call for a bit longer. Thank you, Mary. That's good. We've still got 13 people on the call. Great. I know that Kevin was going to make his way home. Happy to, that's good too. Okay. Yeah, thanks anyway, Scott. We'll go for a bit longer, and of course the recording will be there, and I'll share that with people as well. So we've had a look at how the welcome page might be used in the collaborative section. So Kevin began to talk a bit about that, that his school's using the collaborative section for, certainly for whiteboarding and making those notes, and are many people, many teachers here using it for group activities, like I tried to illustrate there. That I know one thing that we have as an interesting effect, when teachers begin to use OneNote collaboratively with students, they might invite them all into, let's say that we wanted all our students to start putting all their results on the same page. We do get a really strange effect where we've got students are all adding their text, and wherever they click, they're creating something of a text box or an input box. And when you have 20 or 30 different students all creating their inputs, they might be putting them in this table here and trying to add them, and you get this strange effect of boxes upon boxes, and it won't even look this tidy necessarily. So sometimes the best thing is to, rather than have the whole class trying to put their notes and their bits and pieces on the same page, is to split them off into groups, or even get the students to create their own page and have them add their contributions to that. You'll see that this page is indented, so I've signified that it's part of the measuring accurately lesson. So if a student was to create their own page, maybe they could follow that and be able to easily keep all their contributions together with that particular activity. Thanks for coming, Mohammed. So what other ways are the collaborative sections being used? Or shall we move on to our next question? A couple of people typing. There might have been a few comments further back that Cal and some others have made about this. Brainstorming, definitely. You know, I'm not great with mind mapping, but certainly you can you know, start off with a topic and then you know, branch it out to other things, and you know, work your way through processes and how things happen. We use it for projects, yeah, definitely. Drama teacher using OneNote. Yeah, screenwriting. Yeah, there's a drama teacher in New Zealand, Bridget Crooks, and she's a OneNote fan as well. Actually, I haven't seen any of her work, but certainly can do a lot with. I'm just imagining the flow of writing something on the board and then physically acting it out, how that would work through. All right. Yeah, that might actually be Bridget, who's the one of the MIE experts. Students working drafts of research papers. Okay, yep. Thanks, Mr. Tucker. Yes, it is Bridget Crooks, that's correct. So yeah, collaboratively you could create a section. Let's have a look at this. We could create you know, if this was a project. Let's just have a look. Project, and then you know, collaboratively, you know, you could have students beginning to, you know, map out their projects. Because remember, within the class notebook, Elizabeth Swan's section, only she can see that content, and she can't share any of that content with other students within the notebook. So the collaborative section is one place to do that, that's for sure. One place maybe to mention a feature request is that hopefully the collaborative section, at the moment anyone can type in there, so that's students and teachers. It also means that students can get up to a bit of mischief and they can, you know, delete a page that another student might be working on. So there's various considerations there. What I'd like to see is that the OneNote tool, the OneNote app, Class Notebook Creator, gives us a way of being able to create sections for different groups, and only inviting students into those groups within the collaborative section. So you have similar to the students sections, a section where you can put a group of students together and they can work together on a project and keep that nice and safe. Yeah, around the Mac versions, Mary, coming out next year there'll be Office for Mac. Be called probably Office for Mac 2015. Nothing imaginative there, but there's a lot of things that are going to be improved with the Office experience on Mac. You know, you've been having to put up with 2010 for some time, and while that's been good initially, it doesn't really integrate as well as Office 2013 with the Office 365 experience and with SharePoint. So the OneNote experience is certainly going to be good. Yeah, stuck in a Mac world. Yeah, we've got quite a few schools with Macs here in New Zealand too, and certainly the iPad explosion is it's the device of choice in many schools. We do get Androids and Chromebooks as well, and Surface Pros are beginning to make a way through there too. So Kevin's comment there, the students record themselves speaking French and insert audio. Around the audio recording, I saw a good demonstration too, where within the student's notebook, you know, let's have a look at that. If we went into, let's say, Elizabeth Swan's homework, and she had a bunch of text that she was going to type in here, you know, and this was her essay. one thing that a teacher can do is, rather than within a paper copy they had to stick to a thin margin here and write comments and try and keep it quite small, and then if there was anything additional then they might have to say "see me" about this area of the essay. Now what they can do is because they are connected to the same notebook, they can insert an audio recording. I won't do this now because it will perhaps interfere with the link meeting, but they can insert a recording, and as they're recording and indicating on the essay itself, there are timestamps, so that as you begin to write, the audio recording will play, and then it will highlight to show the audio and the comment match. So I might say, this title is great. Have you considered, being a bit more descriptive in that first paragraph? And the audio recording will match the. It won't draw the ink at the same time, but what it will do is highlight it and look in a similar fashion like that as the audio recording is played. Quite a useful way of marking work, so that you can give more detailed feedback to a student about their work, and get some more comments across than just inking on its own. A video attachment. Oh, to see the student's fingering, so they're filming fingering placement? Wow. That's quite something. I found that the size of the video recording's not great in terms of being able to record a lot. I've tried to use the video to record user group meetings and the like, and then the video will play, but it will be quite small within the notebook. So I found that the video recordings for OneNote are best if it's like your selfie size. It's large enough to capture your head and shoulders. So I imagine that filming a student's fingers and how they're playing an instrument would be quite an interesting experience, maybe holding the tablet up reasonably close to where they're placing their fingers. Yeah, video feedback with an essay, so that's another thing too. One thing that for those schools who have been using it a little longer now, what are you seeing around the size of the notebook? Because if we're recording a lot of audio and video, and students are dropping in pictures and all sorts of larger files, the notebook itself will get larger and larger, and there's more and more to synchronize. I know this is a little technical around the questioning, but what are you seeing in that respect? If you've managed to get your microphone working there, Kelvin, or Kevin. I think I hear you there, Kelvin.
Am I working?
Yeah.
Oh.
Welcome to the meeting.
Thank you. I'm actually just pulling up. We've been in school since September, and so we've just hit our exam period, and I'm just pulling up the data on our size of notebooks. Our largest notebook right now is 7 gig.
Okay.
And let me see. And that's pretty standard for this time of year. We typically grow. The entire database grows at about 12 gig a day for the first 2 or 3 weeks, and over the course of the year, that's slowed down to about 4 gig a day of total content across all of our notebooks. We're 750 kids and about 100 faculty.
So that's probably quite typical, I guess, of the growth of notebooks, because we don't want to put any limitations around how they're being used. Hey, we don't want to say you mustn't put in too many videos and you mustn't put in too many audio. We're trying to keep it open and free so students and teachers can use it. But interesting. So that 7 gig notebook, I'm just imagining the experience of a student joining the class and and synchronizing that for the first time, what that might be like. Probably not such a bad experience if, in your case, you're using your OneNote binders, which are local, aren't they? They're stored on a local SharePoint server.
Yes, they're within our network. Yeah, and that's one reason why we'll likely stay within our network, because of that size issue. The other thing is OneNote 2013, the desktop version for Windows, is remarkably effective in syncing. It knows what you want to see and will only pull in that page at that time. And so the syncing issue on slower networks isn't as noticeable as it used to be on the previous versions.
Actually, that brings another thought. When you get to a new year, are you starting a new notebook for your classes, or are you reusing a notebook and zeroing certain areas of the notebook to make it new for a class?
We start with all brand new notebooks, but the faculty will keep last year's open and drag over content into their private planning section for reuse.
Right.
What's really surprised and impressed us is that students, when they come back to school, reattach to their old notebooks so that they can go back and look at previous content, which we know that no student has ever really kept their paper copies of their notes. But our students are actually going back in and looking at previous notes from previous years and sharing them across years. So that's really quite nice to see.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, I mean, I can't think of many exercise books that I myself kept as a student, but being able to just reattach and see those old notes is very useful. So yeah, you start off with new notebooks each year, and a teacher might refer to an old notebook and just drag across the lessons as they need to. I do like the idea of having that private planning section within the notebook too that teachers can use. One idea that I'd put out there too was having a notebook just for the teachers of a certain department or a year. So maybe year 9 English again. That there's a planning notebook for all teachers to be able to collaborate on and get their notes together for how they might run their lessons, and then drag out the lesson that's been finalized into their class notebook. So yeah, that's probably a similar way to work.
And that's also what they do as well. So our departments will make their own grade 11 math notebook and play with it as teaching faculty.
Yeah, that's great. And so it's using OneNote as the storage facility in a sense for past lessons and lesson plans and resources, as well as the way to facilitate the lesson. So we've got a comment there from Kurt. Notes I produced the last 4 years with my students so that they can prepare for final examination. Yeah, so Kurt, so that meaning that you've got past exams and old exam notes from the previous years that you just shared that notebook in a sense and said, here you go. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, very quick and easy way to give students access to previous work or previous exams. I imagine that you could just about zero that notebook in a sense and make it like a workbook for preparing for exams, that you've got all your questions and they can work through it and ink on it and type the contents as they prepare for the exam. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So since I'm teaching, I think now for the 4th or 5th time the same classes, I just reuse them, and that's quite useful for me as a teacher. And the other way was I shared the collected notes I've done in the classes the last year with them so they can prepare for the final examination we have to do here in Austria. So that's pretty useful for them, and they are asking for that last year's notebooks so they can see what we were doing the last 2 or 3 years, because these topics are coming to they have to know these topics for the final examination.
No, that's an excellent way to prepare, and certainly it's much better than taking an old exam, photocopying it, and saying, here you go, you can practice off that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, good to finally hear you in person too. Good to meet you. Look, I just we'll probably finish the meeting off. I know there's 10 people still here, and we do have a recording. It didn't quite run as planned in the sense that I probably took a bit too long showing people how to use the OneNote class notebook creator, but now that we've got that out of the way, I think we should continue a discussion on the OneNote water cooler about how we might have repeat meetings, because I did find a lot more value in talking and hearing other people's comments about how they're using the notebooks. That maybe as a suggestion we continue the discussion there about how we might want to run a regular meeting and maybe address one or two topics, and perhaps have a teacher or a school to present how they're using the notebook in that certain area. So yeah, let's continue the discussion there, and I think it be a great idea to have a regular meeting, even if it was once a month, to hear how others are using it and get more out of the discussion than necessarily looking at specific features. If that sounds like a good idea.
Can I
Sure.
break in one more time?
Yeah.
The Microsoft Educator Expert Group is a very diverse group. There are people who have difficulties, launching a browser or doing stuff that is very normal to other people. So what I would suggest is that there are several levels of meetups that people can sign up for, because I think, although I've seen quite a few presentations of how to install a class notebook now, for the majority of members, it may be too fast, too advanced. So maybe like I've seen at SharePoint conferences, you could label, or we could label these sessions with numbers to indicate, okay, join this if you're just starting out. If you're just starting out with this subject, don't worry, it's okay to ask those simple questions. That's what this session is for. Come here if you've never experimented with this product before. And other people who, get easily bored to see the same presentation over and over again can sign up for a higher level session. What do you think?
I think that is a good idea. Yeah, it was a little difficult to know how to run this first one to start with, covering the notebook itself, and then looking at how others are using it. So I agree. One way to do it is to split out that content to two separate meetings. It almost lends itself to something of a virtual conference, doesn't it? Where if we ran something and managed to get ourselves organized, we could have a presentation done by each of the schools and people who are using the tool, and a couple of presentations about the basics for using the class notebook creator. But yeah, certainly
Yes,
been able to... You go.
Yeah, and another thing that I've been wondering about is it's not completely transparent who's at which, step of implementing OneNote Class Notebook Creator, because we've only just started out. You're quite advanced. You're the know-it-all. You've done the presentations and everything. So I'm thinking maybe we could is there a possibility to set up a notebook or something where people can just write down their names and say, hey, I'm at this stage. These are the topics that I run into, or the issues that I run into. Or shall we use the water cooler for that? Shall we just invite people over to the water cooler, and so that we can assess where people are right now? Is that useful, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think the water cooler is a nice, simple way to to talk about it and at least sound out where people are at. Combining that with a notebook is certainly a good way to do it too, where you can invite people in and be able to make those contributions. Singing out about what level they're at and how much they know and don't know. But the Yammer network is probably the first place to do that.
Yeah, because I think people won't easily admit that they need help or that they have no clue what we're talking about or where to get started. There are a lot of people who don't have an Office 365 license at their school who are just, single, how do you call those people who are just single
subscribers?
Without, yeah, and they don't have the possibility to install this product that easily. So I've already suggested to Mike Tholfsen that it should be possible for those people to install a demo environment or even a trial license or something on a hired server somewhere, so that they can experiment with it, because they're now stuck at the position where they are. And I know that these MIE experts do have the possibility to get a license, but they need to jump through all kinds of hoops with their local branch of Microsoft to obtain a license. So that takes a while, and it's just too many steps for them to get where you are right now. And I know what it's like, because I was right there too. I've signed up for the Microsoft Partner Program myself to be able to install a demo environment so that I could, install a OneNote Class Notebook Creator. I'm ranting a little. I'm just ranting a little bit. I'm making gestures, but you can't see the gestures.
Turn your video on, we'll see your gestures.
Okay, well, nobody's using video, so I won't.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
No, I understand. Like, there's I guess assumptions made. Microsoft has made it possible for schools to get Office 365, and they do that through their various distribution channels, and that they've made assumptions there that it's going to be available, so teachers will be able to experiment and play with it. However, there are schools that have said, or stuck their hand up and said, yes please, can we have the licenses, but a number of them are just sitting on those licenses and haven't actually started to use Office 365. They want to plan it first, and not necessarily let teachers begin to experience the OneNote class notebooks yet. So it's possible for anyone to go in and sign up for an Office 365 trial, but probably it's not the easiest experience for the average person to just do that for the purpose of experimenting with a notebook. And even then, you only get the 30 days for that trial. So
exactly.
If you're going to trial, then you need to kind of make sure you set the time aside before that trial expires.
Exactly. Yeah. The demo environment that I set up is a 90-day one, and it's a fully configured system. There's a name for it, a provisions system or something.
Yep.
And it's quite cool, but it takes more than a whole day of waiting before Microsoft has fully configured it. So anyway.
Yeah,
so
this
is just something that I'm noticing from my role on the Facebook group, that many people approach me in private messages, and they ask questions that are clearly saying, "Hey, Marjolein, hold my hand. I have no clue where to start." So I think we should. I really think we should bring this up with Microsoft and see how we can get these people started before the official license program takes off. There's some extra steps that we need to take before we get everybody on board. So what probably needs to happen is that we need to make an inventory of who is at what stage of this process. Maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe I'm misinterpreting the signals that I'm getting. So we should probably first assess what it is that people need. What you probably don't know yet, Daryl, is that yesterday all MIEs were challenged to participate in a contest to create a sway about their use of OneNote.
Okay.
So,
Is there
which
anything
pretty
here
cool.
that you're saying which might be under some kind of NDA that we should?
No.
Okay.
No. I think all other people who are here on the call are MIEs, so
Right.
they know about it. And I think it's fine that Daryl knows about it too, because he's very much into this, into this whole thing of sway and OneNote. So, no, I think that's fine.
Sure.
This is pushing people toward trying out OneNote. I've been sharing resources with people all day. But they first need to get acquainted with the whole product of OneNote before they can try their hands on the OneNote class notebook creator, which is like a phase 300 in SharePoint points. If I'm making any sense, do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. That there's this expectation for the MIE experts to upskill and to learn about these new tools and start to use them. But from what I'm hearing, some of them are struggling to get started, and they don't really have a space to be able to use it yet. So it sounds like there needs to be some more work and guidance, hand-holding given to the MIE experts to get themselves started with the subscription that they're entitled to or being offered.
Yeah, and it's the subscription that they're offered is to be negotiated with their local branch. So there's not much that we can do about that. But what we can negotiate about, I think, is if Mike Tholfsen, for example, I regret that he's not here, because otherwise he could say something about that. But I was thinking maybe there's some kind of server they could set up so that people, can join and create their own notebooks and experiment. So we'll see about that.
Yeah, there might be a few ways that they can achieve that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my contribution
no problem.
to today. Yeah.
So if you don't mind, just a question about there. What is the duration of this webinar? We've probably got up to about an hour and 30 minutes. So I'm going to suggest that we continue the conversation in the Yammer water cooler. What I will do is just put that link up on the certainly within the messaging window. Whoops. So that those who haven't joined yet will be able to jump on in there. If you haven't signed up with Yammer before, you can go through the process and just use the email address from your school, and then using that you can enter the Yammer OneNote water cooler network, and we can continue to talk about some ideas around this meeting and how to get people upskilled with OneNote and how to get them accessing the tools that they need to experience the being able to get up to date with some of these things and participate. So yeah, I'll stop the recording there, and thanks to everyone for attending. Thank you for those who willingly gave their time and added their comments, and some great discussions there that I'll have to read later in the instant messaging history. But I do hope that we can meet again next year and organise the meeting to maybe be a bit more focused around a particular topic, or show some basics of a certain area of the notebook, and really have a good mixture or good balance of the real world skills and the real world examples, and not get too much focused on the technology itself. We don't want to be talking technology all the time. We want to be still talking about teaching and enabling that with the technology, not making it the focus. So yeah, thanks for everyone attending. I'll publish the recording, and I was considering putting it on YouTube as well. So I might just chop out the discussion there about MIE side of things, just in case it is covered in NDA. And yeah, thanks for attending, and we'll keep talking about this later on. So